Win up to £25,000. The Community Lottery, a subscription-based lottery that allows you to continue to support good causes that matter. When you win, good causes win. Every month, eligible good causes have the opportunity to win a share of funds that could help them continue the good work that they do in our communities. To apply, there's no complicated forms, nor do you have to be a registered charity. Just grab your phone, send us a 60-second video explaining your good cause and the difference having extra funding would make to your project. Visit thecommunitylottery.com. Hit the play button and sign up for either 13 weekly draws or by direct debit for just £4.35 that gives you 4 weekly draws. You could have the chance of winning £25,000. The aim of the Community Lottery is to create an additional source of funding that will enable good causes to undertake innovative projects that matter. If you're in, the communities win.
Well, hello, and good evening, good day to you, and welcome to another edition right here with What a Week on MediaNet Live TV with myself, Mr. C, and of course my co-host, Mr. Tony Crossbody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Why, look at this man here. What?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Tony. You're looking sharp. Looking sharp. In fact, you put the capital S and P in a sharp, mate.
I'm looking at date tonight, Mr. C.
Listen, you're looking splenducious, my brother. You see, this is how we do it, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes I'm smart, Tony's casual. Sometimes I'm casual, Tony's super sharp. This is how we do it, man. It's the yin and the yang, the balance that we have here.
Indeed.
Tony, yeah, man, you look proper dapper, my brother. I like it, man.
Well, good fan. Sharon Spice comes. What are you dressed up for?
Tell her never she mine. Mine her for your own business. Look, my man have kerchief in her pocket as well, you know. Oi.
You make the effort, they're not happy. You don't make the effort to sharpen up. What can you do?
What can you do? Paulette Grant says, Lord.
Hello, Paulette McGarland. How you doing? Long time no speak.
Oh, Angela's saying, where is the date? No worry yourself, Angela.
Somewhere in the audience, I would imagine.
Oh, we want to say bless up to Donna Ben, who's actually not feeling too well. Donna, but I wish you a speedy recovery. But glad to see that you're still watching. So thank you for joining us, even though you're sick. And it's good to know that you can pass it to us through the screen. Thank you.
Good evening, Donna.
Oh boy. Miss Kazmax says, backside, watch Tony.
Miss Kaz, I'm dangerous when I scrub up.
In it. I would say to you, Miss Kaz, it's best to watch Tony with your eyesight. You won't see the show the same way if you're watching for your backside. So just letting you know. Oh, but Tony, how you doing, sir? How are you, first and foremost?
I'm doing fine, man. You know, trying to keep positive. You know, Boris tells us that the lockdown, he's working his way to lifting the lockdown.
Oh, right. God bless Boris. Thank you so much, Boris, for that.
For that carrot and stick, right? So I've just been trying to stay positive, bro. Do my exercises, you know, the things we need to do to sort of stay positive.
Good. I'm starting back up with the yoga, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I took a little stock check this weekend and said to myself, you know what? It's been a long time. I know that for a whole year, I haven't even run. For a whole year, I haven't done any kind of proper physical cardiovascular exercise at all. So yeah, I'm going to start back with the yoga, and then after around about 2 weeks of that, I am going to start taking walks or running. I'm going to force myself to do it. I have to. I have to.
No, I hear that, and especially the weather's warming up a little bit now. It was snowing and freezing a few days ago, but now it's picked up. So
I was just about to say the same thing, Tony, because this weekend we're looking at temperatures of 16 degrees.
Whoa.
Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So those of you who have barbecue equipment, you might want to take it out and enjoy. It's going to feel very warm considering it's this time of the year. So temperature of 16 degrees this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy it.
Wow.
I would say.
Do you think the government's going to actually start lifting these restrictions?
I think some kind of restriction will be lifted soon. I've seen an article recently where they're saying that clubs and various forms of entertainment may soon be opening under the guidance, so that people who go into these venues will be able to have these new fast track tests. So I'm not too sure exactly how these tests are working or who's paying for them, because considering when you think about it, the slow track test was costing around about £100 and odd if you wanted to get yourself a coronavirus tested. So I can't see how these tests, which are going to be quicker, are going to be done at the cost of the venue. So I'm not too sure how they're going to do that. I'm not too sure if it's just going to be a temperature check, but I will follow that story and keep you updated, Tony, and viewers.
Oh, that's a development, because I thought that clubs and these types of events would be the last thing that the government were thinking about opening up. So that's quite interesting.
Well, possibly it could be under the guise that if they get this these so-called random testing, and if you test okay, you can come in, then they can roll that out possibly to the vaccine passports, which it seems like they really want to try and bring into force. So this may be a tester for the vaccine passports. If this works and people are compliant with it, then therefore the next step will be easier compliance with the vaccine passports. So we shall watch and see.
Watch and see. That's very, very interesting. We did due to time last week and our discussion, we forgot. And apologies to our viewers, those who noticed, but we forgot to say some condolences. A couple of condolences. One of them, a very important gentleman in the community. If we can just have the first slide up, please.
Yeah. Of course, we're talking about athletics coach and legend, Sir Lloyd Cowan, as we'd like to call him, who passed away. Lloyd Anthony Cowan, his full name. who passed away. Wow, Tony. I mean, I know you're an athletics buff. Do you remember Lloyd Cowan?
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I mean, I know of his achievement because of the great work that he done with Christina Horogu, who won an Olympic gold medal under his tutelage.
Definitely, the Olympic 400-meter title in 2008,
right.
to be correct,
Yeah.
to be precise, I should say.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you said her surname, because I struggle with that sometimes.
But that was an incredible, you know, the run up to that final was incredible. I mean, she was in great form.
She was.
There was hope that she would win, but she had stiff competition. And, you know, I remember sort of rooting for her, screaming at the television all the way around. And when she came through first, oh my goodness, it was celebrations all over, wasn't it?
Come on now. I mean, you know, for a young British woman to win the Olympic gold medal is just it's a joy, because usually when we watch the Olympics, Tony, we're only rooting for one country. Let's be honest. And especially when it comes to athletics, we tend not to really be looking at our own British sprinters. We tend to look, you know, back home to Jamaica, Usain Bolt's, the likes of Shelly-Ann Fraser. And that's where our joy is. But to see our own homegrown achieve such great status, it does give you that extra joy, and it's that extra icing on top of the cake, to be honest with you. So, you know, his legacy will live on, man. His legacy will live on.
And I think many people don't know that he was an athlete in his own right.
That's correct. Yeah.
To becoming a coach, he represented Britain, I believe, in 110 meters hurdles, and I think and 100 meters, if I'm not mistaken, and won bronze.
That's correct. In the 94 Commonwealth Games, he represented Britain 110 meters. So yeah,
and he inspired a lot of athletes with his manner, the way he knew about the sport, the way he encouraged his athletes, and I recalled Usain Bolt sort of wrote a tribute to him on Twitter. World-class athletes who knew him quite well. So, I mean, we couldn't allow his passing to pass without saying condolences to the Cowan family and all his friends and family.
And former athletes as well, and current athletes as well.
Indeed. So rest in peace, Lloyd Anthony Cowan.
God bless, man. God bless. Yeah. Also, we had another significant passing as well. This time, a former Motown legend, Tony.
Yes, founding member of the Supremes, a lady called Mary Wilson, who passed away, aged 76. Mr. C, if you saw a picture of how Mary Wilson looked at age 76, you find it amazing that she actually passed away. She looked so good.
Listen, my brother, I saw pictures of her, and first of all, I was thinking they've got the wrong picture. You know, like how many times they always use the wrong picture for us black people, because they reckon we all look up. I was convinced that they'd got the wrong picture.
Right.
Because, you know, I thought there's no way this woman could be 76 years of age.
Right.
She looked good, Tony. She looked so good that if I saw her in a type of establishment that we long to be in once again, I probably would say to her, would you like a drink?
No,
would you like a dance?
You know, I tell her, I just fix my jacket and go, baby love.
Absolutely beautiful woman, and she looks so full of life. So, as you said, a founding member of the Supremes. She wasn't just one of the Supremes; she was one, you know, the founding member, and she was there until the very end, wasn't she?
Until the group finally broke up, and nobody really appreciated how good a singer she actually was, because obviously she was. So it was Diana Ross who really sort of held that. But actually, there's footage of her on YouTube, and she really is a great singer, very underrated. And apparently, she had just finished recording an album just prior to her death. So it's that's really, really sad. She also wrote a book called Dream Girls, for those of you who saw the film. So the film is based upon her memoirs of that time, you see.
Wow. Wow. I see. I didn't even know that, Tony. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. So for those of you who saw that film, this was based upon her memories of that era, that great Motown era. And we have a little clip, Mr. C.
Come on.
We can quickly look at and remember her by. Let's have a look at it.
Mary Wilson was one of the founding members of the legendary Supremes and a friend of our show. She was set to join us as a guest co-host to commemorate all the exciting things she had in store this year. Mary had so much to live for, but sadly, instead of a celebration, we're mourning the loss of a music pioneer. What made the Supremes so special?
Well, first of all, we knew it was special. You know, we knew we were good. We were the first girl group there at Motown, but we were the last ones to get a hit record. That's how much we really believed in ourselves.
Mary's death came as a shock to many. In fact, just this past Saturday, she filmed this new video for her YouTube channel, appearing healthy and excited about her 77th birthday next month, her upcoming new album, and the 60th anniversary of the...
Oh, man. Wow, man. She sounded like she had so much to give still, man.
And looked so well. And I'd be interested to find out when they release that album to tune into it, because as I said, I've heard performances of her and watched on YouTube, and she's far better than you could ever imagine.
Oh, man. Very
talented vocalist. So we say rest in peace, Mary Wilson of the Supremes.
Charmaine Bradshaw says Mary Wilson always looks stunning. Karen James says rest in eternal peace, Mary Wilson. Blossom Nation says Lloyd was a great friend for many, many years, who I sadly miss. Rest in peace, Lloyd. Sue Butte says as well, R.I.P. Lloyd, who will be greatly missed. And also Karen James says, I've seen the film and stage play, both fantastic, and that's the Dream Girls.
Sad loss. And nowadays, I mean, 76 doesn't really sound that old, and she didn't look like she was frail at all, did she? She didn't look like she was ill or she was heading in that direction. So that's quite shocking.
Well, it must have been out of the blue, because, you know, she had TV shows lined up. She had an album just ready to put, so she couldn't have had any kind of underlying illness that, you know, that could have been foreseen. So it must have been a real shock to her family and close friends as well as us, I would say. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go and try and see if I can find that book and read the story, because I've always been fascinated about, you know, how things were back then in Motown. And again, as she said, they were the first female group, so she would really have the story of how it all began, how it was all put together. So it'd be really, really interesting to read that and get a kind of understanding of that time and era, because I think it was one of the greatest eras in modern music, that whole Motown generation.
Indeed. Rest in peace, Mary Wilson.
God bless.
So, Mr. P, this Sunday gone was.
Oh, this Sunday gone was tremendous, my brother. The football was fantastic. You're laughing, or you're not? Did something else of importance take place?
No. You're right. It's the football. I was thinking about it. It's the football. Yeah.
Was there anything else happening on Sunday?
Action-packed games. You know. Yeah. But you know, Sunday was I think what traditionally is known as Valentine's Day. Oh, you didn't forget, Mr. C. You didn't forget that it was Valentine's Day.
And you know what? I've got a whirl of cards and present here that I'm supposed to send out, you know. I want it. Seriously.
Oh, it was Valentine's Day. The ladies all knew about it. Ladies in the chat, please let us know if you received any cards, flowers, dinner.
You know what, ladies? I apologize. Every single one of you here watching, I've got a card and a present here for you. I got Tony to write the poems in the card and everything.
Yeah. The flower shops were closed, Mr. C, so I had to pass by a cemetery and
You're wrong. You're wrong, bro. I'm not getting it. Oh, Father gosh.
what can I do?
Woo.
There was some nice ones. I wrapped that up and
Tony, you're dressed to kill today, boy. You're dressed to kill, not just yeah. I'm so sorry, Donna. Donna Ben said, nope, Mr. C left me hanging after all the big talk last week. I'm so sorry, Donna. You know what? I've got it here. Don't worry. 2022, it will reach you on time.
Donna, you're not well anyway. You can't receive anything until you get better.
So
Mr. C is very concerned. Health reasons and all that, you know.
And Tegan Allison says she still accepts late Valentine's gifts. Just let me know when it's your birthday, and I can put I can say happy birthday, happy Valentine's, and Merry Christmas in the same card, because I'm eco-friendly like that.
Right.
Some people will say cheap, but it's eco-friendly.
Right. So we're gonna sort of wait, Mr. C, to see what the ladies basically got for Valentine's. I noticed scrolling through Facebook and social media.
Oh gosh! Oh yes.
Both today and yesterday, that these were very popular memes that a lot of ladies were putting up on their Facebook. It says, "I love myself, all that I am, just as I am completely. Self-love."
Yes, self-love kind of did seem to be the talk of the weekend. I noticed that. I saw that. In fact, yeah, I saw quite a lot of that on WhatsApp statuses as well.
That seems to be the trending hashtag self-love.
The other thing that I noticed as well, Tony, and because I'm a great observationist, I like to look at things and then look beyond things to look at the finer detail. I saw a lot of women posting pictures or little videos of flowers.
Oh.
Yep. But I never see no cards with these flowers. Which kind of made me think that either, number one, the person who sent you the flowers didn't want to remain anonymous, or they didn't want to be credited with sending you the flowers, or possibly the flowers came from yourself.
Well, I did pick quite a few to send out because I was fortunate because the cemetery where I live close to is very big, so.
Oh,
but I know.
Go on, Tony. Sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, Sharon Spice Gibson says men have gone cheap now. It's all about WhatsApp messages now. Terrible. Me and Tony would never operate like that, Sharon. No. If we was your men,
yeah,
whichever you prefer, yeah, we would never stoop so low just to send you a WhatsApp message. Yeah.
So our secret producer Angela Cozier points out that she's got card, flowers, dinner, and cuddles.
Oh, bless her. And she also said she watched She Is the One with Kane Brown. Great movie. Did you have a lot to drink when you was watching that movie, Angela?
Way to go, Angela.
Bless her. Denise Francis says, we miss both. I miss both. Sorry, darling. Sorry. Oh, dear.
Charmaine says, if you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else, as they say.
True. Or nobody can love you. But yes, Yes, you got to love yourself, 100%.
You know, but Mr. C, I found it interesting that I saw a lot of these types of memes. Not just one. This is not the one-off. I found quite a few talking about this very same subject of self-love. It kind of got me sort of scratching my head on it, really, because why is this the case? Because normally, of course, when women receive flowers, cards, and chocolate, what do they normally do? Don't the world know about it?
Yes, always, always, always,
And
100%. Because I remember the last two relationships that I was in, that definitely anytime the woman received cards, flowers, chocolates, and everything, that always put it up on their status and showed me as well to say, look, you see, you got next man sending me things and you ain't got me nothing. You're what? Let's look around, scram you. So,
and I love
want everybody to know.
I love that technique. You know what women do? They if you don't get them something, they'll come and tell you a story about how their friend's man took them up, you know, took them onto a fancy high-rise restaurant in London Bridge, this, you know, and spent X amount of money on, you know, a first-class meal with dessert and this and that.
Yeah, and I think that they're right. They should definitely do that. I think, you know what, if your man is not stepping up to the plate and looking after you properly, and you can find an example of somebody who's doing a better job, then you should highlight that to your man. Definitely, 100%. On the other hand, just don't rub it in too much. Don't do that and then start playing Joe Thomas songs like I would do all the things your man wouldn't do. That's when you're taking it too far now. You understand? That little extra bit will push your man over the edge, and they'll say, "Go on, make your take it then."
I mean, I sent some Valentine's messages to some ladies because I felt sorry for them, and you know, they were relatively pleased.
No, Tony, no, I have to stop you, my brother. I have to pull you up on that. You didn't send any young lady or any woman a Valentine's message because you felt sorry for them. You sent them the message, Tony, because you wanted to express how much they're loved and how much you appreciate them as a friend, and you were showering them with affection and love on that special day. That's how I'd prefer to interpret it, Tony. But go on anyway.
Sorry, I'm not showing my romantic side. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, we were able to dialogue, you know, and they were relatively happy that someone of the male species sort of remembered them on that day. And you know, go on. No, I was going to say that, you know, there were sort of a few comments on social media too where women say, "Well, I don't care about Valentine's Day anyway."
Listen, I used to say that all the time when I was a child, when I never used to get no Valentine's cards. I used to say it all the time. And every year, I did looking through letterbox, hoping postman was... But when that particular time come, that's when I start, this is nonsense. It's a pagan thing anyway.
Right.
But listen, if a Valentine's card dropped through my letterbox now, as much as I say it's a pagan festival, of course, it's going to warm the cockles of my heart, bruv. To know that somebody felt that affection for me, and oh my God, I'd absolutely, I'd turn in straight. I'd turn into anyway. I'd get moist instantly, bruv. Is what I'm saying.
And I think that's the point, isn't it? I mean, people say they don't celebrate the Valentine's for whatever reason, but the reality is, it's like a barometer.
Yes, yes.
Who loves you? Who's thinking about you? Do you know what I mean? Whose mind space are you invading? And to that meme there, to put that meme up says so much. You know, and the fact that I've seen so many of them, I just find it very, very surprising. But maybe we'll uncover the reasons why that might be.
Yeah, no, and listen, just before we go to that, I just wanted to say as well that, you know, if you send a friend a Valentine's card, does it really count? If you send a friend a Valentine's message, does it really count? Does it, or does it has to be from somebody who's, you know, who properly has that you know, that man and woman, or man and man, or woman and woman connection for you? I mean, it's nice to receive something from your friend, but really, is that a proper Valentine's? So I can understand that, you know, and this probably leads into what you're saying, Tony, is that, you know, no matter how much your friends send you Valentines as a man or a woman, you still want that connection from another human being to make you feel that you're that kind of special kind of thing. And I think that's why we get so much of these "I love myself," because I'm sure that the woman, because I know no man put that up, that "I love myself, all that I am, just as I am, completely self-love," she would have got at least 10 messages from her female friends saying, "Happy Valentine's, babes. Happy Valentine's. You know, I'm so proud of you. Love you. Blah, blah, blah." She would have got all of that. But yet all of that outpouring from her friends is still not enough for her to feel love. Hence now why she has to fill that space, that moment, that void with the reassurance of self-love. And there's got to be a reason for it. And but again, where does it come from, Tony?
I think, you know, one thing that it highlights, Mr. C, about women that we're not really, we don't really, as men, I think we're quite ignorant about, is that women do require validation from their men.
Right, okay.
They do say and act as if they don't. But looking at that meme already tells you that obviously this lady who put this up, who couldn't get validated because there was no man in her life to do that, had to then validate herself because validation was very important. And I think sometimes as men, we're guilty of not recognizing a woman's need for validation.
What say you, ladies? Is this true? Do you need validation? Do you require validation, or is validation something which you appreciate? And how can I put it? Yeah, it's something more you appreciate rather than you need or that you want, or is it a combination of all of those different requirements? What was your experience this Sunday? Did you manage to get the validation that you wanted from your partner? Or did you do a little bit of self-validation, self-reflection and self-validation? How was it for you? Let us know in the comments, please. Again, it's really important that you join in the discussion. It's not just about me and Tony's points of views. We really want to hear what you thought, ladies, and what you think, so that us as men can be educated and know a lot more about our women, because there is a big divide as regards to what we know and what you actually want and what you actually desire. So it's really important that you kind of join in the discussion.
So Phil says, if you have self-love, you don't need validation, but always appreciated when given.
Okay. Adriana Evans says, it's an appreciation. There are cards for parents and children. Yeah. Appreciation. Good. Okay. Antiguan Allison says, send a genuine Valentine message because you want to spread the love. You shouldn't send a message because you feel sorry for someone. Don't want one sorry for me. Who said me sad?
Alison, check your WhatsApp.
So,
but you know, something that really surprised me to see on this subject. I saw this article in the Independent newspaper, and it immediately caught my attention. If we could just throw up the next slide, because immediately, can we expand this, please, a little bit? And you're going to see why, Mr. C. If you look at the title, notice what the title says.
Yeah, it's the United Nations woman removes Valentine's Day illustration of couples featuring a lone black woman after criticism. Whoa.
So that's that. You know, I was like, whoa. I said, what's that about? Let's look at the next slide where we can actually look at the illustration a bit more closely. So let's have a look at it, because what was the controversy about? Can we expand that a little bit more, please, so our viewers can see it?
And then we'll just break down the image, what we can see.
Yeah, that's
Wonderful.
it. Good. So, Mr. C, what do you see from going from right to left when you're looking at that image?
Yeah, so when I go from right to left, I see it looks like a Caucasian woman on holiday in Jamaica, and she's found her Rasta love. A happy couple of dual heritage, mixed couple, absolutely happy in love. I see next to them two men of decent age looking at each other eye to eye. Yeah, and very much again a lot of affection, a lot of love. And then we have the next couple, which is two ladies, one of Asian descent and the other one could be Eastern European or could be Jamaican. You can't tell because the hair is pink and the lips is green, and that's something what a Yardi woman would do. Nonetheless, who's been bleaching. Nonetheless, it's two women of separate nations embracing each other, and then we have a figure which is, it seems like, completely out of place with this context here, because everybody else has a partner, but this lone figure, she's just hugging herself.
It's quite incredible when you actually look at that, right? This was the United Nations celebration of Valentine's Day. So, you know, the United Nations is a very large body of nations, right? And they thought that the way to celebrate Valentine's Day was to show, quote unquote, diversity in love. But the black woman in the picture is the only one without a partner, a man. So I wonder why the United Nations has signed off on such an illustration, Mr. C.
Well, you see, the thing is, I think people will find what you want to find, to be honest with you. Like when I first saw it, I was like, okay. But then I kind of looked at it really deeply. And again, it's like, even, I think Antigone Allison's made a great point here. She says she thought that the lady in the sari would have caused more issue being in a lesbian situationship, which I think is a very good, I think a lot of Asian people will be in uproar as regards to, you know, the fact that the only Asian representative is in a gay relationship.
Right.
So again, I think there will be some kind of uproar there. I think again, some Caucasian people will be in uproar to say that, you know, where is the representation of the white family, traditional white family? It's not there. It's again, it's a white man looking into a brown man's face. It's a white woman hugging and embracing a black man. So where is the traditional? So again, I think that it's not just from the point of view that this will upset just one particular race or kind of how can I put it, normal, what we would class probably 20 years ago as a normal viewpoint of a family. Right. It's gonna challenge a lot of people's viewpoint on normality, because really this is about almost a reflection of the modern world and modern families as opposed to traditional families. So I think that is not just on the point that the black woman is lonely, right, or alone. There's other dynamics going on with that. But from our point of view as African Caribbeans, let's focus on what we see as regards to our culture.
No, but I think it's a very interesting point you make there, right? This is the United Nations view of the world, right? And obviously, groups may be offended as being represented like this. The biggest complaints that the United Nations received was about the black female, represented as being on her own. In fact, a lot of black people were calling racism and foul on it. And because of that, the United Nations were forced to pull the illustration. But of course, they didn't pull the illustration because they were sorry or they thought it was incorrect. they pulled it because of the number of complaints they received about it. You see, so I thought to myself, this is quite interesting. I wanted to look at the department that was responsible for actually signing this illustration off, and I found out, Mr. C, next slide, that it's a department within the United Nations known as UN Women.
Oh, okay.
So it's so interestingly, right? It's a sort of female division that deals primarily with women's issues around the world. So dig a little further. I thought to myself, well, who's running this? Who's running this department within the United Nations? Next slide.
That looks like a black woman.
It's a black woman running it.
Wow, this is it. This is deep, man. Oh, wow.
So, although they pulled it because they were accused of being racist, the reality is a black woman signed off that illustration, which the UN believes represents the world as it now stands. So, in other words, the world sees, in general, okay, a changing world that we see is represented by that image. And that is very concerning. So, next slide. So you wonder whether or not what we were talking about earlier, and just a snapshot of what we've been seeing, about, we were talking about Valentine's and the fact that many of our women were not receiving Valentine's, or they, weren't going out to dinner and so forth. We are wondering whether or not, okay, it might be, there might well be an agenda there. But is there any truth in this matter that we have a lot of our women that really are on their own?
Okay, I see where you're going. I see where you're going. So really, is it a reflection of what is real, as opposed to being racist at all?
I think it's a question that's worth asking. See, like, what is going on? Many of us will remember before the COVID, when you used to go to events, Mr. C, we would be outnumbered. Men would be outnumbered 7-1, 5-1.
Oh, don't remind me of the good old days, Tony. Please. Don't. Oh gosh, I missed that. Please.
Right. I've been, and I think Barbara's in the chat. Barbara will confirm. I've been to events, 250 women, and I'm the only man in the place, and I've got to work the room.
Not because you want to, because it's your duty.
No, but someone's got to talk to the women.
Somebody's got to do the job, bro.
Someone's got to do the job.
So it's a hard job. You don't get no props for it,
No. Somebody's got to do it, man. So unfortunately, it's got to be me, right?
I noticed when the odds was like that, Tony, you never called me once, bruv, to come and help you. Not once.
I was so busy, man. So busy, bro. Next time I'm gonna call you. Next time I'm gonna call you. But you have to wonder, don't it, Mr. C? I mean, we've heard this conversation before, privately and publicly, where women are saying that, one, there's no good men around, and two, there are no men around at all. For them, they're not seeing them, and they're not meeting them.
Sorry, no chat show. Oh my gosh, them girls are too funny, man. She says, Tony, I bet you felt like King Solomon. Bless up, Kaz. Oh dear, hilarious.
I was busy that evening.
Oh, yeah. Work it like you work it on a Sunday, Tony. Is there something you need to tell us?
No, they're talking about a show that we would listen to on Sunday. It's
with Leafon. I know.
Yeah, so yeah.
Just backtracking though, Tony, as regards to some of the comments, as regards to the whole United Nations things. Junie Joseph says another portrayal of the black woman being uber strong and not in need of love, extremely divisive rather. Gosh, there was another one. Sorry, Phil has said so many have sold their souls, and again, not now. Chat show says not surprised at all. To be honest with you, not surprised at all.
Right. Yeah. But what we want to find out, Mr. C, is what's going on, particularly here in the UK, because this is where we live. And you know, we're sort of about town, and we see this phenomena of large numbers of women at events, very few men, and a lot of promoters are struggling to get men to come along, despite they're telling men, listen, we got the most beautiful, wonderful women, and men aren't coming along.
Yeah, and again, this is we see this as well in events such as speed dating, where out of the last probably 8 or 9 speed dating events that I've received information for, I've also received probably around about a week or 2 weeks later another message saying, you know, please, all the ladies' places have been filled, but we need men. There's a shortage of men. Then 2 weeks after that, it'll be like the men won't even have to pay. It'll be like, have you got any brethren? See, bring your brethren. It doesn't matter if you've got a missus or just bring him. We just need a man. We just need some men. So it seems to be quite a reoccurring thing that happens within our community. Why? I don't know. Is it because that the men just are so involved, or their focus is elsewhere? Is it because that the men have already got their plates filled?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no doubt, and we touched on this last week, that look, Adriana says the men are on the night shift. Yeah, absolutely. You know that a lot of us men have a lot to answer for in terms of how we've sort of conducted ourselves with women. I mean, we've been hearing about it, you and I, for the last 30, 40 years, and you know, we're honest enough to put our hands up and say, well, look, we've made errors in the way that we have sort of conducted ourselves, and in some cases we've been punished, right? Some of us have been burnt for some of the errors that we've done. But something sort of struck me while having a conversation last midweek with a lady, and she was talking. And we were talking about this next slide. I want to show you this. It's very interesting because it's a definition of the word patriarchy. Mr. C, would you read that for us, please?
Yeah, a system of society or government in which the father, the eldest male, is head of the family, and descent is reckoned through the male line.
Right. So stop there for a second. So patriarchy is a word we hear every now and then when gender relations are being discussed. You see, patriarchy. So it's the idea that you have a man in the house with a wife and children, right? And the responsibility rests with the man, right, with the father. Now, what's interesting is that for the last 2 or 3 decades, there has been a movement afoot to actually remove this arrangement. People are not aware of this because people just live organically and they don't realize that there are any agendas afoot, particularly in the Western world. But they actually are. There's been an agenda to remove this arrangement of having the man in the house with a wife and children. And I will show you this if we have a look at the next slide.
Okay.
So if we can just enlarge that. This is a definition of something known as radical feminism, right? So we see there, it says radical feminism is a perspective within feminism that calls for radical reordering of society in which male supremacy is eliminated in all social and economic contexts, while recognizing that women's experiences are also affected by other social divisions such as race, class, and sexual orientation. It continues. Radical feminists view society as fundamentally a patriarchy. Remember what we said what patriarchy is? Having a man around in the house, head of the family. A patriarchy in which men dominate and oppress women. Right? So when you're a man that lives in a house with a woman and children, you dominate and you oppress them. Radical feminists seek to abolish the patriarchy. Abolish the man in the house. Get rid of the man in the house as one front. Now, front is an expression often used, Mr. C, in war. The Western front, the Southern front, right? It's a front in a struggle to liberate everyone from an unjust society by challenging existing social norms and institutions. So radical feminism, right? Their agenda is to remove and abolish, completely dismiss, eradicate the patriarchy. In other words, the man from the house. Why? Because they say by doing that, when you get rid of the man, you're going to liberate everyone. See, what happens is when the man leaves the house, if his wife gets wayward, he can't check her. So she's liberated. You can't check the kids. They're liberated.
Well, yeah. Meanwhile, what's happening with the men is that, as now Petro says, they're in prisons, mental health institutions, and so many other factors.
Right. And so it goes on to say, see, they liberate everyone from an unjust society by challenging existing social norms and institutions. Now, let me explain this, because the wording sounds very flowery, but what they're really saying, right, is this. Remove the man from the house. Everybody else is now free to do what they want. If your wife wants to walk on the street with a bikini, nobody can say nothing about it. So what they're trying to do is challenge existing social norms. In other words, decency. What is decent? What is indecent? Right? So that has to be challenged. So removing the man from the house means that the woman is liberated to do what she wants, and the kids are liberated to do what they want. And then and neither of them can be judged for their behavior because they want to change the way things are defined.
Yeah.
Now, many people are not aware of this, Mr. C, because we just live our lives. We're not aware of all the agendas that come in upon us. But there actually are agendas. Next slide. So just if we can explode that a little bit, please. And this is very important, viewers, to bear in mind, because this has a direct bearing on your life. And you're going to see this in a second, right? So let me see if I can just get in there closer. Right, so at the top it says, radical feminists firmly believe that we must transform the entire basis of society towards a celebration of feminine values and virtues. Right? Only by opposing centuries of patriarchal oppression. That means the father in the house having the say of how things are run in the home. Opposing it. Centuries of patriarchy, can society be reordered along a matriarchal basis? In other words, let's get rid of patriarchy. Let's get rid of the man in the house and let the women run things. Let's continue. Under a more gynocentric approach, i.e. female, women could enjoy fulfilling and meaningful relationships, notice Mr. C, without the need for men.
Yeah.
How are women going to enjoy fulfilling and meaningful relationships without men, Mr. C? How do they do this?
Yes. Obviously in same-sex relationships.
Exactly. Exactly. A woman's need for love, she's not going to get it from a man. They are going to fall into each other's arms. This is the agenda. It goes on. It says, unlike other strands of feminist thought, the role of males, notice, is entirely marginal within radical feminism. Right? In other words, you have so little meaning in radical feminist female thinking. It says, whereas liberal feminists believe that men can assist progress towards feminine goals. In other words, we need man to help us push this feminism because we can't do it ourselves, right? This is what liberal feminists think, because they can't do it alone. They need the help of men, right? And socialist feminists have faith in the predestined role of the male proletariat, in other words, the government, policies that are going to help us push feminism to marginalize men. Notice what it says, radical feminists have no specific role for men whatsoever. This is sometimes referred to as the redundant male theory.
Some interesting comments here. Denise Francis says we're living in real sad times. Lynn Spencer says heading that way, but they still need the sperm to have the children. It's all crazy. But again, Lynn also says it's not a bad idea for women to run things. Denise Francis says no, COCKY. You got RABBIT. What can? Yeah. How are they getting women pregnant if there's no men? Again, we've got these institutes which provide juice if you need it, ladies. You don't need the actual man. You can go and get your little top up from the bank, from the sperm bank, and you don't actually need a physical man there to have the child.
What's really interesting about this, Mr. C, is that this redundant male theory has been in the black community for decades. Redundant male theory is the idea that we don't need no man. That means that makes a male redundant. The male has no job in the community when they're redundant. We have those songs those feminist songs that we've heard over the years. We don't need no man. I'm independent.
Yeah.
This is part of a radical feminist ideology that has long permeated our community and has impacted our women. Because men are increasingly becoming redundant. They are not wanted.
It's a very good point that you make, Tony. Donna Ben's saying, well, that's not true, is it? Reproduction requires men for one. Also, there are still women that enjoy being held by a man, just saying. Denise Francis says you can get one of those robot men that lives in a box. It seems to be heading that way with advancing technology. Who? Donna Ben says, who's going to get the mouse or the spider? Is her concerned.
Good point. Good point. But you see, Mr. C, I mean, I don't know if you have heard this. I mean, I've heard this for years, bro. You know, male oppression, you cheating, lying dogs, we can do this on our own. We don't need you. This talk is radical feminism at work. Groups of women who have not had the best time in relationships because of bad experiences repeat this mantra to each other.
Junie Joseph says these songs are reactions. They are not our primary place.
Junie, these songs are curses that you're singing on yourself when you repeat these songs. That's what you've got to appreciate. These are curses. These are not just innocent songs. These are curses designed to create a situation that the song is talking about. And it works very, very well.
It's the same with, I suppose, with what's happening with, you know, if we look at from the role of the male species, especially within our community, if you look at the narratives of the songs,
Right.
where, again, the choice of words for our females are very, 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 very poor. You know, again, I think you pointed this out many weeks ago, Tony, that, you know, we are the only race who will use words such as bitches, hoes, etc., 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 in songs about our women. No other race does this,
Right.
or not
Right.
to the extent that we do it. You know,
Right.
I don't know of any kind of any other kind of race that really demeans their women in such a way. So therefore, it's working hand in hand with both sexes, really and truly.
Absolutely.
This sickness.
And this is what we as men and women need to discuss. We have already discussed the crimes and the sins of men, and they are true. But we have never had an open dialogue with our women to show them how they are being affected, and that they're being affected and their ideology and their belief system is coming directly from the social engineering of feminism. That is having a direct impact on the Black community and relations between Black men and Black women.
Miss Admin throws up a very, very interesting question. She says, a man has to be willing to relinquish their part in a relationship or family for the redundant male theory to work. So the additional question is to ask, why are men not willing to play their part, and why? Very good question.
Well, very good question. Let me answer the first part of that question for you. A man has to be willing to relinquish their part in a relationship or family. Not necessarily. There have been policies by both the Labour and Conservative governments that encourage women to put men out the house so that they can receive more benefits. And men have had no choice in many respects.
Okay.
There have also been men who willingly walked out on relationships. That is true. We can also talk about how some women have had children to keep the man without consulting the man in order to trap him in a relationship, which he wasn't going to be a part of.
I've heard some horror stories. I've heard stories of women actually stealing, you know, literally climbing on top of a man when he's sleeping, stealing the juice. Of course, he's completely not consented to the act. He's even therefore said that he doesn't even want to have a child. The woman's gone forward, had the child, and then she's even managed to get maintenance off of him for the child that she's stolen. So, yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. I mean, these are extremes what we're talking about. However, I think we still have to examine Miss Admin's question in more detail and ask that question: do men feel that they have a choice, or is it an easy choice for men to make?
I think it depends on the man. I mean, there are some men. There's no doubt about it that they are irresponsible, right? And they don't want the responsibility that comes with looking after a family. But it's not just men. I mean, we can point to evidence of women doing this also. But there's no doubt about it. I know. I saw your comment there, Donna. It's not just feminism behind the agenda. No, it's not. But it's a main part of it. It's an ideology. You see, when you capture people in their mind, you affect their belief system and you can affect their actions. And if you look at the history of feminism, which goes back more than 100 years, we are now in what's called third wave feminism. The plan is working very, very well, and it's working very well in our community. And so the reason why I bring this up today is because I want you to be aware of this. Don't back this off, ladies, because this is affecting you. You just don't realize it.
And I think you're right to highlight it as well, Tony, because, you know, when we think loosely of the term feminism, we think that it's about equal pay, equal rights. But again, we don't really pay attention to the manifestos and the actual the actual movement of what these so-called organizations are trying to achieve, or their long-term and short-term goals. So again, it's very much the same thing with the whole Black Lives Matter movement as an organization based in America. Again, that people have to kind of look deeply into the ethics and the origins of these organizations to find out exactly what they're planning to do and what they want to achieve, before we just jump on bandwagons and agree to akin ourselves to such organizations, because we're under the guise that Black Lives Matter as an organization is just to try and get equality and stop our guys from getting shot by the police. There's more than what meets the eye. So, you know, there's an old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So be suspicious, be cautious, do your research and find out exactly what things are and what they mean and what they're about before we kind of just align ourselves with them.
Absolutely.
Tony.
Absolutely, Mr. C. I mean, Black Lives Matter, if anybody goes to Black Lives Matter website and look at their about page, you will see the doctrine of radical feminism.
At work.
At work. They tell you very clearly there's no room for straight black men with Black Lives Matter. They want to smash the patriarchy. The patriarchy is the component of the black family unit with a man, a wife, and children. They want to break that. Black Lives Matter are funded by white billionaires. George Soros is the biggest funder of Black Lives Matter. But because Black Lives see the word Black Lives, they immediately assume these are people working for you. No. Their business is mainly to introduce and to push LGBT issues into the black community. It's not about Black lives.
Yeah, and the thing is that, you know, this is what's been happening. I mean, we spoke about it earlier on, me and Rudy Liquid, Peter Francis, even Theo Ambrose and Les Blair. We spoke about how we are being dumbed down as people as regards to our attention span. So again, you know, first of all, it was Facebook, where, you know, you could have a video of any kind of number of minutes. Then it was Instagram. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, it's got to be a minute. Now we have something like TikTok, where it's got to be 30 seconds. So again, our attention span and the way how we're looking at and how we assimilate information, if it's over a period, if it's over a length of time, we get bored, we get tired, we don't, that's long. So we don't want to research, we don't want to look into things. So it's really, really important that, you know, we have these kind of discussions, people, and we start taking check of how we source information, how we look at information, and again, how we receive things, because we've got to understand that you've never seen a time since McDonald's has been created that there's never been a McDonald's advert. Now think to yourself, everybody knows who McDonald's is or where the nearest McDonald's is to them. So why does McDonald's still need to do adverts? Because advertising works. It manipulates the brain in certain ways, and even though some of it for us, we you know, once your mind is set to a certain way, yes, but there's so many other subliminal things which through repetition and through, again, various other means of media, that these things slowly seep into your psyche and into your mind, and you think that is the norm. So again, people, we still have to start really looking at things and examining things and doing our own little safety checks for ourselves, so that these kind of ideals don't just seep in and we accept them subliminally.
Yes, Mr. C. And remember, a few weeks ago, we were talking about the show Lovers Rock. And many of us were aghast at the LGBT scene in that show, right? Saying that we don't recall ever seeing that when we were out at raves like that. So why did they insert that in the program? Why did they also insert an attempted rape scene within that show? Both of which don't exactly show black people in the most flattering light. People don't appreciate that the TV you watch is weaponized against you. Consider this. Look at cartoons like The Simpsons. What kind of character is the man, the husband, Homer Simpson, within that show? How is he portrayed?
Oh my. He's a dimwit.
He's a dimwit. If any of you guys have seen Family Guy, the cartoon, there's a character called Peter Griffin who is the dad. How is he portrayed? And it's the wife that's really pulling the strings and is the power within that arrangement. Watch any soap opera, Mr. C, EastEnders, Holby, all the female characters are super strong. And the males are just like, oh, Kev, I can't stand it, Kev, I don't know what to do, Kev.
No. The epitome of Ian Beale. For real. Yeah.
Weak characters, weak men. Now, imagine the effect that is having on women.
And if they're not weak, they're either wicked men.
Oh,
they're evil. They're evil.
Right. So remember, the female population is the one who spend the most time watching television. They love their soaps and they've got their certain shows. All of these shows have an agenda in them. But they want you to believe that it's purely for your entertainment and excitement. If you ain't done with that, go and watch the Hallmark channel for women and watch those shows about wicked men who try to bury their wives alive and how the wife gets away and she tries to get them back and then kills them in the end. These shows are designed for women to give them a perceived impression of men, and they are working. They have that effect.
I suppose another example would be like almost the Desperate Housewives of Atlanta, Cheshire, whatever. You see these real affluent women, however, their husbands play a bit part in the program and in the show. They're not really featured in just there for, yeah. And it causes women to aspire to that lifestyle. Sex in the City is another one, right? It was a very good program at the time. Yeah, Harry Bradshaw, I absolutely, I love it. The dirty one. Oh gosh, what was her name, ladies? The dirty one in that Sex and the City. I don't watch it, so I wouldn't know. But they made a movie of it, which bombed. So Sharon Spicer was at TCB. You've gone deep. Hallmark channel. Sharon, I do my research, Sharon. I don't watch them for entertainment, but I find them and I see what they're about, so I can talk about it. Listen, Sharon, I had an image of him with slippers on in a pipe with his Horlicks, you know, not even hot chocolate, Horlicks, you know. Watching Hallmark channel. I got around about another 30 years to go before I watched that channel, man. Hallmark channel, Lifetime, anything that women watch, I watch. Mr. C, I'll tell you something with me. When I was young, I used to go, doctor and dentist and all that, right? And while you're waiting, they have all them magazines on the desk. I used to read Woman's Own, right? I used to be so fascinated with the way women think. I wanted to know. This man say about 15, 16, 17, right? I used to read Women's Own and read the problem pages and all the issues that, you know, women used to go through. And then I used to read the advice. And it used to blow my mind, you know? And it just got me very interested in the psyche of women, to try and at least understand them, because I knew that they're different from me. So if I could try and get to understand them early, I could more, you know what I mean, cater to them, right? And understand them. So I will flick through channels that I know women watch, and I want to know what they're watching. You know what, and Tony, I think you're so correct there. And this is, again, gentlemen, this is a very, very good indicator as regards to the quality of the input. Will give you quality in your output as well. So you saw Tony there, he was saying he read Woman's Own, and therefore he got a very good understanding of women, and therefore that led him to the Hallmark channel. Now, for a lot of us as men watching this, we didn't start with Women's Own. We started with the Littlewoods catalogue. You know what I'm talking about. And that's why now you're not watching the Hallmark Channel, you're watching Babe Station. Yeah. You need to have a better input. Gentlemen, you know who I'm talking to. Yeah. Thank you, ladies. Samantha is the one. Thank you, Angela, Karen,
Yeah,
and
Samantha.
also Alison. Yeah, Samantha was the one. Yes, played
Samantha.
by Kim Cattrall. Exactly, exactly.
That's the one.
Charmaine Bradshaw says, I know a guy who reads women magazines too. Why does he read them, Charmaine? What's his reasoning? What's his understanding he's getting from that? It'd be interesting to know.
Mr. C, there were girls at school who used to read Jackie. I used to teach their thing and watch that.
Wow. Boy, that's a blast from the past. Jackie. Wow. But you know what? A funny thing you said that, Tony. I think that's probably why a lot of the women of our generation were so mature, because they were something like Jackie kind of prepared them for relationships. And well, where's the Jackies of today?
Right.
For our young ladies, how? You know, if you've got a daughter who's from 12, you know, the adolescent ages from 12 to 27, how are they going to become a woman?
So Charmaine says that I learned how women think because I'm a gallus. No comment. But I relate to women well.
Charmaine. Please, you know? Charmaine.
Phil says, did you used to do the surveys as well? No comment.
He did. He looked forward to doing them. He did.
You know, a few years ago, Mr. C, I used to have a website all about dating and relationships, and I used to write lots of articles about what's going wrong between men and women. And I used to get lots of women used to email me because, you know, they were having certain issues and they wondered why. And I used to, in some cases, I sort of took them on a sort of 6-week course, and I started them off with, you know, finding out what their ideology was, what was their belief system, because you can't outstrip your belief system. What you believe about life or what you believe about men is going to equate to the results you get. And so we used to just talk, and then I say, well, do this, and then basically we look for how things improve, and I will be able to tell through conversations with the woman how well or not she's progressing. And so I eventually abandoned that because I had other projects sort of that were taking up my time. But we've sort of come back in a sort of circle again with discussing it today, because my concern, particularly for our women, is the fact that I think many of them have a blind spot, and they don't realize that there is an agenda being played, and our men too, not just the women, and our men too. But as we know, we have already been exposed for our wrongdoing. We have already had our spotlight, right? But there's never ever been a discussion with women about a spotlight for them.
But Tony, are women ready for that though? I mean, I
don't know, Mr. C.
Tony, look, I mean, they've been oppressed for such a long time. You know, we've abused them, we've mistreated them. You know, they still haven't got like equality in pay, and even job respect and positions just yet. So, do you think that this discussion would be a little bit too premature for them, or do we go on the premise that, you know, of one of those things that women are always maturer than men, so probably they are ready for that discussion? I mean, I don't know. We'd have to ask the ladies, Tony.
Yeah, well, let's see what they have to say about that. Let's see what they say about that. I think the thing what's interesting, Mr. C, is that we've come to a point in the Black community where it's clearly visible that we're hemorrhaging. The Black family unit in the UK is hemorrhaging, and what we have really are just a one-sided narrative as to why this is happening. And it's very difficult to have dialogue. Dialogue means two-way, right? when you've only been listening to a monologue for 30 years. So the monologue is, you men are no good, you cheat, you lie, you rob, you this, you that. End of story. How do you actually deal with the essential problems of the black family unit if we can't both put our crimes on the table? And there's been crimes committed on both sides. It's just that you cannot tell women that they are also guilty. There is this narrative in our community, Mr. C, where our women hide behind this cloak of purity, that any problems that happen with a relationship, it's the man's fault. Women, a lot of women do not accept responsibility for the very bad choices that they made and the consequences of those bad choices.
Well, Marie Fortune says, not all women are brainwashed by TV, just as not all men are brainwashed by violent games. Black women are more aware and informed than black men. Okay.
So hopefully by the time we finish the show, then you would have known this already, what I'm talking about. Because awareness is very, very important.
Marie, are you saying all black women, or are you saying some black women, or the black women that you know or that you've experienced, or is that a general statement? Just curious. Lynn Spencer says, agree, Mr. C. Women have come a long way in terms of work, etc. But to be honest, I'm one woman that wish I could have stayed in the home and leave the man to go out and work. Would rather be a home wife.
Right.
That's really truthful of yourself, Lynn. Really respect that, and for sharing that as well.
Right. Donna says, Tony, you are generalizing a little too much, methinks. Okay, Donna. Okay. So the point, Mr. C, is this, you know, when you have a platform like this, okay, and we have the privilege of talking to our viewers, one of the things that we have discussed is this importance about challenging narratives. That if you have a platform, one of your jobs is to challenge prevailing narratives. We do that with the Black History Show that we do, Mr. C, every Tuesday. We challenge the narratives that we've been sold for the last 100 years. And we go into the history and look at it. Where has this come from? Why are we here? This is the same principle. We have to challenge narratives. And the narrative that we're challenging is the one that the problem within our community with regard to our relationships and our family dysfunction is all the fault of black men. We are challenging that. Because we can list numerous things that women have done to contribute to our situation. But the problem is they get triggered every time you try to have a discussion. So what happens, Mr. C, is that there's a gagging order on men, which is men are not allowed to critique women in any way for what they've done. But we can be drawn over hot coals, and we must take responsibility for the problems within the community. So I'll give you an example of what I'm saying.
Oh, please do, man, because you know what, I'm trying to sit on the fence here, Tony. So please, right. I need examples.
And I've heard this. You know, a woman would bring up her son would go to university and get a master's degree or first class honors. So she says, well, you know, look at that work that I've put in for this boy. You know, it's because of me that boy, I really brought that boy up and helped him to get to where he is, and he's done well, right? But that same boy doing 15 years for armed robbery in prison, it's his dad's fault.
Where's the father's?
It's because his dad is not around. That's what the same woman is going to tell you if that boy ends up in prison. So the point I'm making here is this has got to be consistent. If you're going to take the glory for doing something, which is fine, then also take the shame.
Interesting point.
You can't pick and mix the faults of men because it suits your argument. This is not Bassett all sorts. Right? This is not Bassett's also. This is a very serious discussion about the future of the black family. And it's necessary that women take responsibility for many of the things that they have done. We as men know what we've done. And it's all out in the open for the world to see.
Just
but we
want to pick
can't
up on
talk about our women, sir. We can't talk about our women. And because we can't talk about our women, the women don't know. They walk around in a delusional ignorance about themselves, and they think there's no discussion needed to have.
Well, I totally agree with that last statement what you've just said. I just want to pick up on what Alison is saying. She's some real interesting thoughts here. It's how you tell women that they are guilty, and I 100% agree with you, Alison. You know, there's too many unqualified transitional life coaches running around out there. I agree with that as well. Only a true woman who knows her worth would admit to her fault in a relationship. 100%. It takes two to tango in a relationship, and at the end of the day, it's not a blame game, but the togetherness was not meant to be. She also says, and yes, unfortunately, some of the cultures have not been healed, so continues the destruction of other women's views on men. Some men are not. Oh, sorry, it's just gone. Some men have not been taught how to speak to women. Those who have never been taught to build and will continue to destroy. Absolutely, I totally agree with everything you've just said there, Alison, 100%. Thank you for that. Donna Ben says, I, for one, do not think that all black men are bad. Just like not all black women are good, and vice versa. Most of the women I know their faults. It's good that you said that, Donna. But do they also, how can I put it? Do they also put up their hand to those faults to those men? Because you see that.
Read Marie Fortune's comment if you can see it, Mrs. Steve, because she made a very interesting point. Let's read that.
How do you know it's not? I know many women who have checked their women. It's sounding very it's sounding very much man talk to me, misogynistic.
Yeah, right. So you just made that point to her question. They tell them each other that, but they don't tell you that as the man. I've never heard a woman in my whole entire life confess to any crimes that she has committed towards relationships that she has been in. I've never heard a woman say, you know what? To be honest with you, I wasn't in the right place at that time and I cheated on him a few times, or I lied to him, or I went back to my ex-boyfriend, or I went out with... They never tell you as a man, but they tell each other. So men actually never know whether they confess anything or not. But they can tell you as the man your crimes. Yeah. Well, you know. So the point being is, we can't dialogue without honesty. That's the problem. We can't dialogue without honesty. The honesty is, black man, you have failed. Right? In many ways. Not all, again. Let's say, no, not all. There have been many black men who have stayed by their posts, and we commend them. And they're still there today. But there are many black men who have failed, who've not lived up to their responsibility. But let's equally pull up the black women who've not lived up to their responsibility, who've used manipulation to get children.
You know what? Fair props to you, Marie. Marie has said, I've even stopped being friends with low-grade women who have toxicity towards men. And you know what? I commend you for that. Because again, we really need to challenge people on it. Because, you know, and I think what happens sometimes is that pain causes us to really focus in on just ourselves. You know, when you're going through pain, you don't really care about the other person or the other people. So the other person could be the male, the other people could be now the children, because once you're in pain, you tend to just see it from your point of view. And sometimes, again, if you are, a single mother or a single parent, raising young children in a place where you're distressed, where you're in pain, and, you know, one of your girls reach out to you, you will express that. However, I've seen it so many times, and even, you know, very, very recently, where somebody is talking about the pain they're experiencing. However, the child is in earshot of it. The child is in earshot of it.
Right.
and that person is totally unaware of the wrongdoing that they're doing and the damage they're doing to that child. They're totally unaware of it. And I think the reason why Tony is really trying to push this message through, ladies, and I'll try and give you an example. Have you ever been in a car and you're driving and somebody does such a terrible move that they almost cause you to crash, and then that person carries on with their life and driving, oblivious to the fact of what they've done, and you're cursing them out of the top of your head? You're like, oh, you silly. But that person in that car who's almost caused that fatality is completely oblivious to it. And I think this is what Tony's trying to make people try and understand, that we now need to start thinking beyond our own thoughts of pain and really have a look at the bigger picture. And I do like the fact that you said, Tony, that we need to move from a position of having monologues with people where we're just talking about, you did this to me, this is how I felt, blah, 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 and start having a dialogue with people. A dialogue with each other, males and females, man and woman, partner and partner, baby father and baby mother, whatever it is, husband and wife. We need to start having dialogues and discussions with each other and taking check of where we are, what's happened before, and where we're going now. And we definitely need to start having it. We definitely need to start having it.
You see, the biggest problem that both men and women have are two things: lack of self-awareness and a lack of humility. That is often lacking, especially within relationships when men and women try to converse. Everybody's trying to get their point across. Nobody's internalizing themselves and say, well, maybe my approach is wrong. You know what the prevailing thought is, Mr. C? This is the way I am, put up with it. Love me for who I am. Even if I denigrate you or disrespect you, you still have to love me. The problem is, Mr. C, how can you love what you don't respect?
Deep.
You see, many people say they love. I love this one, but the way we talk to each other, the way we treat each other, the way we refer to each other as to our friends, shows whether we really have respect for one another. Because you can't say, I love this person when you don't respect them, because respect is the basis of love.
Yes, yes. I mean, Phyllis says, isn't love and relationship supposed to be unconditional? But again, I think...
Then how would you explain the divorce rates if it is?
Oh,
it's not. It is based on condition. There's no such thing as unconditional love in that respect between men and women. I mean, if a man abuses you sufficiently, you're going to leave. You're not going to stick around and put up with that. So there's conditions. There's conditions to your child staying in the house by abiding by your rules. When it gets out of order, they have to leave. You can't apply unconditional love to people who will not change.
And again, the whole terminology, unconditional love, it doesn't mean that you will not dish out punishment, or your behavior to somebody will not change if their behavior doesn't change.
Right.
But again, I think love is something which it's got so many different meanings to so many different types of people. Like, again, if we look at the fact that, you know, there's loving somebody, and then there's being in love with somebody. Completely two different kind of feelings and two different kind of categories as regards to love. So I think, and again, a lot of people talk about love from different levels,
right,
and different understandings, and they never fully quantify or qualify exactly what my level of love is or what their level of love is. And again, this is what happens within the relationship, that one grows in love more than the other, and the other one subsides a little, and they're never at the same kind of understanding because they've never really had a proper discussion as regards to what love means to them.
Right. But you see, this theory of unconditional love is a myth in itself. You see, even the Most High God, who loves his people, will destroy some of them who don't repent.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of love.
The unconditional, this idea of unconditional love, the meaning of that is it doesn't matter what you do, I'm going to love you.
I disagree. I think that, you know what, when you have a fully understanding, because you see what it is, I think that we've bought into again, I keep using this terminology and I'm probably wrong for using it, but it's my understanding, that we buy into a westernized concept of love, which is everything is Mills and Boons.
Yes.
That, you know, if you love me, you would never do that to me.
Yes.
It's absolute nonsense.
Yes.
Love is part of yin and yang. It's gonna be an unbalance, and that's where you need the unconditional love,
right?
Because the unconditional love allows you to, in the moment of when somebody's doing something wrong, when somebody's is causing you pain, you're able to sit down in the love, and from that place of love, explain to the person where they're going wrong. And that's the part of the unconditional love part, because really and truly, if that's the case, then what should happen is, if you're in love with somebody and both of you are in love and somebody does something wrong, that's it, it's over, you go. That's not unconditional love. That's you protecting your ego.
Right.
So the unconditional love is my feelings are hurt. What you've done is wrong. However, because of the love, I can sit down and take all of my emotions out of it,
right,
explain to you where you've gone wrong, and then now see if you will grow in your understanding of love. You see what I mean? And through that unconditional love, you two can grow together. And I think a lot of our parents had that to a certain degree. Whereas some of us now, we're very snappy to, nah, somebody does that to me, boom, I'm off.
Mr. C, look at Marie Fortune's comment. She had another interesting comment. Let's focus on that for a second.
Okay. Marie says, it's crazy to only focus on black women when black men are in such a damaged position right now. Look at the poor young black men killing one another. Social media is full of black men bashing black women. The hatred for black women is more than the hatred for racists and inequality. It's time to be honest and stop the blame game.
Right. But unfortunately, within her own statement, she has a contradiction.
Okay.
Because she herself is putting blame on the black men. But then at the end, she says, let's be honest and stop the blame game. So in other words, don't point at women, let's just point at the men. And this is how we end up going around in circles, Mr. C, where we can't dialogue. We're not allowed to even touch that element of holding women accountable and responsible for their behavior. It must all be about damaged black men killing each other in the streets. Look at them in jail. They're gay. They're wicked. They're players. They're liars. But we can't call our women and say, listen, don't act like butter don't melt in your mouth. You are not squeaky clean. Some of you need to be hauled up before the International Criminal Court of Human Rights in The Hague for some of the stuff you've done.
Yeah, and I think what it is, you know, it's very much, ladies, I just want to say, for those of you who are finding it really difficult to digest some of the commentary on this, it's almost like putting yourself in that position where Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Well, if Black Lives mattered, why are they killing each other? If Black Lives Matter, why do they call themselves the N-word? If their life means so much.
I think it was Alison Bajakan who made a very interesting point earlier. She said that we have never been taught to communicate with each other, and I think that's a very true statement. Our template for communication has been our parents from young, and some of us did not have the best communication transmitted to us, or the manner of communication transmitted to us, and we have taken that style and used it in our own relationship, much to our damage. I know I've been guilty of that. I mean, we spoke about this last week. And relating to your partner with respect and the way you frame your words and what you say is vital to demonstrating love. And a lot of us fail in that department, Mr. C.
And listen, it's easily done, Tony. I mean, like, I can say, like, in past relationships, you know, how I've damaged women, I think, before in the past. I'll give you a prime example. And again, this is where unconditional love is a very, very important thing, because it helps you to deal with ego. It helps you to take responsibility. So I've had past relationships where, you know, the relationship is broken down, and I can feel as a man that I'm past this relationship. I still have love in my heart for this person, but I'm past this relationship. Now, what happens is that you may still have a friendship going. So what happens is she may come to see you, or you may go to see her, and, you know, one thing leads to another. And what happens usually, you get physical with a woman. Yeah. And over time, this is what I was noticing, is that I would have relationships with this woman, which is physical, even though we're no longer an item. And it got to the stage where you could see that she still wanted the relationship to happen, and she'll get tearful. And I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, Ball now. Yeah, but I told you this is what would happen if things never fixed up, blah, blah, blah. I'll just ignore the tears, bruv. Because for me, it was just like I was just getting my physical needed satisfied. We're both grown people. But this is where unconditional love steps in, is because, you know, when you look back and you think to yourself, if you had proper love in your heart for this person, you cannot watch tears fall out of somebody's eyes who you love and continue with that kind of behavior, knowing that it's hurting them. So what happens is that the unconditional love says to you, you know what, even though the physical connection is beautiful, it's brilliant, and that really and truly in your mindset, she needs to man up and stop barling and get over it and everything. We've gone from this kind of one-on-one relationship to now it's just a physical thing. You have to say to yourself, you know what? I'm causing this person damage and hurt. And if I love them, I'll stop this. Now, on the other side of it, the unconditional love is the one where you have to say to that person, no, you can't come to my house and stay after 10:30, or no, we're not going to do anything physical. And that again in itself is a challenge, because the other person now sees the physical part and the physical connection as the last hope of clinging. Because a lot of women feel that they can change a man's mind or heart through that physical connection. And a lot of women, I'm not saying all of you, but a lot of you are still using this physical thing. You know, if I look on Instagram, the amount of women I see take pictures and your face is secondary to your batty. If you're taking pictures and your ass is showing to the camera, means your mind is not strong enough to sell whatever you're selling. You need your ass in the picture to sell it as well.
How many times I've watched talented women, right, on Facebook on Facebook, who play the violin half naked. I don't know what I'm supposed to be concentrating on half the time. Do you know what I mean? There's a beautiful woman who plays the harp so beautifully, but she wears clothes that accentuates her body when we should be concentrating on the harp.
Sex sells, bruv, at the end of the day. Sex sells, and we know it. But again, this is a part of us being real and understanding how other powers and other things have a control on our mindsets and our abilities in how we communicate with each other. And we have to take responsibility for all of us collectively, our role in this. And as Tony said, that, you know, that for us as men, our badness is out there. Everybody knows our story and the downside of the things we're not stepping up in. But ladies, it's time for us to have a look at yourselves now, and for us as men to kind of like say some of the things which we've noticed. And again, for you to, you know, you don't have to do it today, you don't have to do it this year, but we're just saying that, you know what, take a step back and have a look at it from our point of view. So much, you know, the same way how we're expecting white people to step back and look at what we're saying as regards to Black Lives Matter from our point of view. It's not about your feelings. It's not about what you think. It's about having a look at it from our point of view, just for a moment.
Well said, Mr. C. And I think that's important. We have a voice. We have opinions. the matter has not been it's not been decided because we've had a 40-year narrative bashing men. And we don't want to bash women, but we do want to outline that we are both responsible. Someone said it takes two to tango, but it's only black men that have been tangoed.
Just want to go to some of the comments. Really important that we get some of your comments in here. Phil says we tend not to talk to each other, but at each other. Really, really true.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of dialogue is via messaging, which can sometimes be misconstrued. Best dialogue is face-to-face, looking at each other. So true, Alison, because as we know, only 30% of communication is verbal. The rest is body language. 70% is body language. And if we're just texting people all the time, we're not really having a proper conversation, an in-depth conversation. Now Chat Show says how people treat others is a reflection of what's going on inside. So true, so true. Alison says we as a people have been taught how to speak to each other. Have we? I think you've mentioned this one already, Tony. Have we as a people been taught how to speak to each other appropriately? I'd say no, definitely not. Are we forgetting this is a plan for us not to love ourselves? Absolutely, Now Chat Show. Absolutely, there is a plan for us not to love ourselves, and we can see this. We can absolutely see this, but until we start addressing it,
right,
and laying down some kind of foundation or some kind of how can I put it? Some kind of charter of self, of togetherness. How can we move forward collectively? Otherwise, it would just be individual struggles and battles.
Mr. C, we're already losing our children who are in their 20s and 30s, right? We're watching them fail in relationships. More children coming out, coming out of these relationships, and the relationships aren't staying together. And in many cases, many of them are lost, and it's going to be very difficult to help them. But look, the grandchildren coming behind them, these young girls, 11, 12 years old, listening to Cardi B and getting their advice from Beyonce about how life really is. This is what's happening to a lot of us, is that our minds are being molded, and it's been molded through a means that we love, which is our music. And we don't see it. And we believe that this is all organic and it's just part of male oppression, and male has been. Most of you women have grown up in very good households with very good dads. You weren't oppressed by your father. The worst that happens to a lot of women is perhaps the dad wasn't around or he was emotionally distant, for the most part. In some extreme cases, yes, you may have got beaten, you may have got abused, but for the most part, you weren't abused by your dads. Some of you picked very bad boyfriends. Some of you like roadman, wasteman, thugs, because they're exciting. You know what I'm talking about. Good man that come would work. He's too boring. He's not driving a nice car. You know, Mr. C, let me share something with you. Do you know why? A lot of men, a lot of brothers have a bad reputation for doing drugs, right? You won't believe that one of the main motivations why is not just the money, is what the money can do in getting the women they want. Because women that don't want what they term as Brock Pocket man. They don't want man that can't take them on holiday, show them a good time. And a guy who's left school with very little education and basically has a low-paying job wants a woman. That's the desire of his life. You might be his dream girl, but you're Brock Pocket. It's going to take him years before he's going to even start earning 30, 40 grand. He needs to earn it now. He needs you now. So the man is going to find a way to shortcut that for you. And then now we say, so many black men are in jail. Well, why? What is their motivation? I work with young people in schools. It's starting already. The need to oppress girls.
And I think the other thing is, no, go on, Tony, sorry.
Yeah, what they're prepared to do for women, you see? And the standards that women have for men, what they say they need? What makes you a real man? How much money what do you do? Mr. C, I have been sat across dinner tables with women I can't count, and there's not a boast, but I just say this to you. You know what women often ask? This is what comes out, or what they say, what you bringing to the table? What you coming with? Nobody asks women what you're coming with. We're not allowed to ask that. That's insulting. That's misogynist. But a woman has to ask what you're coming with. I want this, I want this, I want this. And then you ask them, well, so what am I getting? Oh, well, me. That's the deal, right? Because I'm a goddess, I'm beautiful, you like me, you need to show me what you got. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Tony, I think that's where, for me, I think that's where both parties have to step up. You know, it's a mantra that I used to have, and I'm trying to go back to it. Is like, I believe in two things in a relationship. You either step up or you step off. As simple as that. Step up or step off. Those are your only two choices in a relationship. You step up in it, or if you're not ready, you haven't got the equipment or the facilities to do it, and you're not willing to step off. Simple. Right. Step up or step off.
Step off.
And that's for both. It goes for both, male and female.
Absolutely. You see, the problem is we're not treated equally in the relationship dynamic. That's the problem. We're not. You know what I mean? Standards are set for us that if you were to put them same standards on women, you'd be seen as insulting them.
Well, look, Donna's saying, Tony, you sound like you're talking about young women. If you're hearing these things, you're hanging with the wrong crowd. Yeah. Older women have been through this and are aware of themselves and what they want. I'm a goddess and I want a god.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. I will tell you this, though. There are many women who have never grown up.
Oh, Tony. Now look, I'm gonna have to put a finger on this, my brother, because they're not ready. They're not ready to hear these truths, Tony.
I know. You know, brother, we're not here to lie and curry favor, bro. We don't have this privileged platform to make people feel good. Sometimes we do, and sometimes we're honest.
Now, look, ladies, I've got to be honest and everything. I know that I can be playful, and I know sometimes I can be a damn ass. However, what Tony is saying, I thoroughly agree with him. I'm not going to say all women, but I'm going to say there's too large a minority. I'll say that phrase again. There is too large a minority of women who are not fully growing up. And, you know, Donna, God bless you. You said you wanted to be a goddess. And I'm so glad that you chose the term goddess and you're looking for a god. You didn't say that you're a princess. Because, again, this is some of the Western ideal where we're so sold into this girls being princesses. And then what happened? That girl turns into a woman and she still wants to be a princess. You can't be a princess if you're a fully grown woman. You still want that princess wedding. You can't have a princess wedding if you're a fully grown woman. If you're past the age of 18, you cannot have a princess. I want to be treated like a prince. No, you're a woman. You're a full grown woman. If you want to be treated like a princess.
Mr. C, you have some of these mature women out here that are competing with their own daughters. They don't tell you this. They don't want to talk about that, right? Just like you rarely find men competing with their sons, although you do find men who don't.
I do. I compete with my sons all the time. Yeah. I put my hand up where I have to put my hand up. Yeah.
But when I say compete, are you trying to be your son? Are you saying, well, I'm better than, I've got the same youth and energy as you, son, and I can do what you do? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I got to be honest again. When my middle son was 14, I did challenge him to a race live on Facebook, and he beat me not once but twice. And that was the last time I tried to be like that. But seriously, though, look, I think men and women, they compete with each other in a different way. I mean, like I'm very competitive with my sons as regards to Yeah, I think I've got to be a certain way with them so that they can see what it's like to be a man and how to be a man. And I think again, women and mothers and daughters have that kind of, you know, whether it be how they dress, how they go out, how they dance. It's a bond which sometimes I think us men don't fully understand. However, I get the point that you're trying to make. But again, I think it's a grey area. So you're gonna have to be really specific to get me to buy into it, Tony.
Okay. There are women that compete with their daughters that still feel that they're in their prime, though they are middle-aged. They are way past their prime, but because they're looking after themselves well, they feel that they have the same prime value as their daughter. You don't find that with men. Men would play fight. You know, what men are prepared to do is pass on the baton. Women struggle to pass. A lot of women struggle to pass on the baton with their daughters. And sometimes there's that friction because of that.
You mean like no matter how good the daughter cooks food, that is never as good as mummy's cooking?
Right. Right. And going back to that thought you made earlier about the princess. Because see, women since the age of 5 have been sitting in front of a television watching Prince Charming, Disneyland, Disney World films. They've been watching the handsome white prince, full of money, rich family, pull up in a carriage with 6 white horses.
Mm.
This is in their mind growing up as girls. You know this because many women will even use the language of Disney World when talking to you. They say, you got to kiss many frogs before you meet your prince. That tells you the effect that television and this whole concept about what romance and love is, where it comes from.
Mm.
So when you're waiting for your prince with money and a ride to turn up and a black man turns up with a 3-legged donkey, that is unacceptable because that is not part of your dream world that you have created for yourself as to the kind of man you want.
No, but Tony, why are you going to use that as an example? Because I want to know what happened to the donkey leg now.
You see,
I want to know if they're a Chinese man to this story. or a Jamaican man with a machete and a jerk pan. I want to know why is the donkey only got 3 legs?
The donkey's having a prosthetic leg made up, man. But you can't. But the expectation that women have been programmed with, it often leads to disappointment because of fairy tales. Remember, Mr. C, from very young, these girls have had Wendy House, Dolly, little plastic cooker that they've been playing with. They've been learning how to be this woman of the house from a very, very early age. The first time a man ever hear about settling down with a woman is when he's probably about 19 or 20.
I think for a lot of men, the first time they know about settling down with a woman is when their mother or father kicked them out the house for sneaking the gal in a couple of times.
Right.
And yeah. But Alison has says that we need to run this topic again with a balanced panel and add 2 women. I think, you know what? I think you're 100% correct, Alison.
No, I disagree. We've
okay.
had too many female viewpoints. Enough of that. We need to hear from the men. The men need to talk now. You've had your time. You've had 40 years to talk. You've had 40 years to prove what you're about and what you're doing. No more women on this panel. Men. Let men talk. Let men have their say. Because that's what I find, unfortunately, when it comes to women, we're talking to women, they don't want you to talk. They tell, you need proper dating professionals on here. No, we're in the trenches. We are the mandem that's been on the ground watching all this develop.
But
we
Tony,
know that radical feminism is a program that's being run in the black community to split men and women. We don't need no other professionals. We don't need no other women. We are hardcore man on the ground. 40 plus years we're in this. So we have a view, and that view needs to be heard. We need to discuss. Yes, we need to have future programs on different platforms where men speak. We've given you the respect and the good grace to listen to you for decades. Now you're going to have to listen to us.
I stand corrected.
Look what Donna says. Who the hell upset Tony? It's that women always use these shaming tactics, Mr. C. Whenever you talk, it's either shame you or guilt you because, oh, who hurt you? You hurt your feelings, you got issues. No, Donna, we want to talk to you. Why does everything have to be about guilt? Why do we have to feel about shame? Why can't black men express themselves as they really feel? We know a lot of you don't have respect for your men. You are infected with feminism ideas, which damage relationships and damage family life.
Well, look, Tony. So, in my opinion, when Alison said that we needed to have two ladies on the panel, I was open to that because, as you were saying earlier on, Tony, that we need to move away from monologues and enter into some kind of dialogue. So I thought that would be a perfect opportunity to have a balanced view as regards to our thoughts and findings. However, listening to what you've just said as regards to no, it's time for us as men to have a conversation and for women to listen. So what we have to ask ourselves then, ladies, I speak to yourselves, I speak to the ladies only. Don't want any guys in skinny jeans saying, may I? No, just hush them out. It's for the ladies. So ladies, are you able, are you willing, would you allow us to have a conversation with you where we as men talk about how we feel, what we've experienced, what we've been through, from a point of view of just getting you to have a better understanding of us? And so in order to do that, what we need you to do is not to be the dominant force in the conversation, but to be the passive side. So we're asking you to kind of like appeal to your mothering instincts, the nurturing instincts that you have in abundance more than us as males. Are you willing to sit and listen to what we have to say as men, and at the end give us some comments and some feedbacks, but to allow us to drive the conversations that we need to have as men? Because if me and Tony can't have this discussion as men, whilst you as ladies listen, then how can we pass this knowledge on to our daughters? How can we then pass this knowledge on to our sons without our sons seeing us being called, are we upset, are we angry, who vex us? Therefore, by default, our sons watching this think, there's something wrong with daddy. Daddy's not well, daddy's angry. And I'm sure you understand this because there's many times where you as a black woman have tried to be assertive in the workplace and have been labeled the angry black women. So ladies, please let us know when you're ready for the discussion and talk.
We have to be allowed our right to speak. Right, I've read many comments now. Oh, you're angry, you're this and that. You see, again, this is all shut down, defensive commentary. Oh, your talk is one-sided. Ladies, what have we been listening to for the last 40 years? Come on.
It's time.
Come on. You're talking about one-sided commentary. You're talking about misogynist. You're talking about who the company you keep. What have you been doing for the last 40 years? And when we want to talk up, why do we want to talk up? Why are we so passionate about talking up? It's not angry. We're passionate because we're watching our nation go down the drain. And we know that you share the blame with us. But the minute we want to talk to you, you get defensive and triggered. How can we ever move forward when we can't even dialogue? How is this ever going to happen? If you keep staying defensive and hiding under a cloak of no butter don't melt in my mouth, how do we move forward? Oh, Marie's on one tonight. Marie's on one tonight.
Okay. Listen, Marie.
We need to have a discussion, and that needs to be ongoing. But we've come now to the end of the show, so there's not really much time for us to continue.
However, this has been an interesting discussion. I'm sure there will be more. Marie, we need your thoughts and your views. So please, I say this to all of our viewers, be you male, female, whatever sexual orientation, it's so easy. I find, even like when I have talks with people who are of a racist persuasion, I find it so easy for us to dismiss conversation just because it's not going in the direction that we want it to. And I think that what we need to do, especially in this year of 2021, let's start having some real conversations and some real talk. Again, if you like it from a female perspective, then please, please, please tune into the Now Chat show, where we have two wonderful, beautiful goddesses discussing all different types of topics. I implore you, if you just want to see females talking, you can't really get any better than that. I'm hoping that once we get through the stages of us talking as men about the things that we see and what we're trying to correct within ourselves as men, with you know, almost like, again, when you as a parent watch a child either cook for the very first time or ride a bicycle for the very first time, you watch and you listen and you observe. And we're hoping that, ladies, you'll be able to watch us as men have these discussions, observe what we're talking about, and probably take some of this and I don't know, have a better understanding of the males in your life, be it your son, be it your, you know, your partner, or be it you know, again, the father of your children, or the baby daddy, whichever way you classify them. But let's move forward in discussion and dialogue to the point where we can grow as a community and people, and hopefully we all will live a lot closer and better in love and unconditional love whenever it comes to us.
Yes, and Mr. C, let's thank everybody for their comments.
100%.
Whether you agree or you disagree, we can disagree, but we don't need to be disagreeable. The important thing is that we get a chance to hear from the men's point of view and let you know at least something about how we're thinking and how we're feeling. And we do it as a means for repairing the breach that we currently have.
And I'd love later on, once we've gone past this stage, to have this kind of conversation with the Now Chat show ladies as well, who I think are well versed in conversations on both sides of the equation. And yeah, let's get that sorted and get that organized. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been What a Week. Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share. But most importantly, catch you again next Tuesday, 7 p.m. from myself, Mr. C, and
Tony Crossbody.
Take care. God bless.
Good night.
Right.